Okay, so I'm now recording. So the bias and fact and opinion questions I do want to talk about a little bit today. Now, interestingly, functional skills English, certainly because it's more concerned with your ability to uncover these things. It does simplify somewhat these ideas we have about bias and fact and opinion. So what I'm saying here is absolutely true for the exam. It may not necessarily be true for real life. Okay, just get that out of the way. So there's a couple of ways they may ask you to do this. They may ask you to, they may present you with a list of potential phrases or sentences from the text and ask you to pick the ones that are opinions or the ones that are biased. They may give you, they may ask you to look at a section of the text and remember, only pick from that section and choose biased statements from that section. They may also ask you to give one or more phrases that are facts or opinions from a given section, or they may ask you to give phrases that suggest an author's point of view on a topic. And again, that's usually from a section. So we're going to have a quick look now to see what that might look like in practice. Okay, and I'm going to use the insert here from the resolutions paper if you've got that open. Now, one thing to bear in mind here is that bias is essentially where that author's opinion is coming across. So if we take a quick look at this opening paragraph here, we can see it's quite neatly divided. And this is something you're going to come across. It's quite neatly divided into the author's voice, the author's opinion, the author's personal bias, and actual facts and statistics that they use to reinforce that. And again, that is quite common. So if we have a look here, in news that surprises no one, least of all me. Now that statement there indicates a level of bias, okay? So the surprises no one, this is subjective. We don't know, it doesn't surprise anyone. We can't really measure that. That's her opinion that this isn't surprising, that this isn't news, okay? However, research has shown that around 1/4 of people give up on their resolutions after just 1 week, while fewer 1 in 10 will maintain their goal to the end of the year. That is a fact. That is the result of someone actually sitting down and studying this. So this isn't bias. This is someone who studied it. They've interviewed people, never written it up as a sort of scientific thingamajig. Now, it goes on then to say, so what's the reason for this disappointing statistic? Now, there's one word here which makes this biased, which makes this as an opinion. If this had just said, so what's the reason for this statistic, that would literally just be a question. It wouldn't be a bias. It wouldn't be an opinion. But the fact she's used that word disappointing there is a judgment. She's making a value judgment there. She's using subjective word. She believes this is disappointing. Frankly, I've never been a fan of resolutions myself. I could care less myself. So again, you ask different people, you will get different responses, whether they find this a disappointing statistic or not. I'm pretty sure people who, for example, sell running shoes and tracksuits to people in January actually quite like that statistic because it means more business for them, you know, repeat customers every year. And again, moving on, we've got this. Behavioral scientists have discovered that people tend to focus on what they are changing rather than why. And again, this is a fact. This isn't an opinion. This isn't bias. This is a fact. Behavioral scientists have studied this stuff and they've found out this. That's what they're reporting. That people focus on what they're changing rather than why they're changing it. So that's a fact. We'll move on here, but there's good news. Science has shed some much needed light on how to stick to resolutions. By saying, but there's good news here, and using the words much needed, or the phrase much needed, she's giving us her own opinion. She's bringing her bias into this writing. So that is what bias and opinion and fact is going to look like in the text that you see. And as for the questions, as I said, we may get questions where they are sort of like asking us to find opinions or bias phrases from a list, like a multiple choice section. And with that one, obviously, what you're going to do is you're going to look through and you're going to look for what's objective here. So what can be proven and what is subjective? What depends on your interpretation. They may ask you to quote a bunch of bias statements from the text. And for that, you do literally what I've just done there. You'd read through that section you're asked to read through, and you'd pick out the stuff where where the author's opinion is coming across. They may ask you to give one or more phrases that are facts or opinions from a given section as well, in which case you would, this is usually divided up like this, you know, sort of like fact and then opinion. So for instance, if we're going by the one that we've just done,
So much.
and with fact, what you would do is you would just pick out the things that have sort of been stated as fact there. So maybe fewer than 1 in 10 last a year. And there we go. That's how we'd answer that question. Phrases that suggest an author's point of view on the topic as well, we'd be doing in a very similar way. They give us the author's point of view. In this case, you know, give some quotes that suggest that this author believes that it's difficult to stick to resolutions. We'd essentially just go through and quote those. So that is a broad overview there of fact, opinion, and bias.